Hey, welcome back to the Wheel Friends Podcast, a comedy podcast that exists in the world of bicycling. I'm your host, Craig Richards. In today's episode, my buddy Steve returns to the show to tell me about a recent bike packing trip he went on because Steve's caught a little bit of the wanderlust. So he's been outfitting a bicycle, and he's going to tell me all about that. He and I are going to do some light planning for a camping trip we're going on this weekend, weather permitting. Here is Steve and I.
I mean, I've been meaning to get like an actual pair of headphones. Mm-hmm. So once I do, I can just use those when we record.
Oh, that'd be great.
But I've also spent a lot of money on bike parts in the last in the last month, and just camping equipment and a bunch of shit. Amazon credit cards, evil.
I love when somebody just goes full headfirst into something.
Oh, dude, no, that's exactly what I did too. That was like me. Like, because basically when I had that 4-day weekend, I was like, I'm going to do something with it, you know? So I wanted to do the trip that I did, which I didn't actually go on the trip like I had planned, because once I got everything strapped to my bike, like once I got the whole thing set up, it was like, 1, too late in the day to leave. And 2, I was like, I have no idea. I've never ridden with like this amount of weight on a bike before. So I spent that day just riding around town with all my gear on my bike, just getting used to like the actual weight and
it's
feeling
weird.
of it. It's way different.
You'll be a little slower, but man, once you get that mass up to speed, it's like,
then you're cruising.
Yeah.
But that bike is so freaking heavy. Like the frame itself is really heavy, and then with all the weight on it and stuff, and it's single speed fixed gear.
Yeah,
like,
which is interesting for touring.
It's not good.
to say the least.
It was the most, what's the word I want to use for it? Like,
irksome.
Perhaps. I was just thinking more like rushed, illy planned, very improvised. It was a very improvised trip. I was like, well, I know where I'm going. You know, I'm sure I can make it 80 miles in a day.
I like it better that way, with that little bit of like that sense of danger.
The
like,
adventure
I'm
spirit.
going into this a little bit wrong, like 90% wrong.
Yeah.
But, you know,
also, I was going alone. Like,
you're still a healthy adult human being on planet Earth in 2017, and it's just for one night. So, like, the worst that could happen is, you're shitty miserable. Well, unless you make a lot of really dumb choices and then you die. But like,
it'd take a lot to die in West Michigan though over one night, especially when you pass through a town every like 20 miles or something like that. You know,
hypothermia sucks, but the sun is gonna rise.
Yeah, exactly. And I had a sleeping bag. I had everything I needed. Like if I needed to camp off the side of the road, I could. Realistically, if I needed to call my parents, I could.
Yeah, if you needed to light a fire and just stay alive by this fire all night long and just forego sleep entirely, that's doable.
Oh, totally.
And for one day, and then you're gonna go back to civilization.
Yeah, you're fine.
You're fine.
I wasn't. That's the thing. I was never too worried, but it was like I just kind of like that feeling of like no safety net. Like it was all me.
Yeah.
Which is like the first time I've done like a totally solo, on my own trip. Like I planned all of it, and basically what happened was like in September. The beginning of September, I saw on my schedule at work that I had a 4-day weekend. I just decided, like, I had that old frame, the old Latour frame and stuff, and I wanted to use that to become like a touring bike, which that's not what I built. I built a mess on wheels. With a rack. The only thing that's touring about it is the fact there's a rack on the back that I can hook stuff up to.
Well, and it is a Latour.
It is. It's in the name.
You got that bicycle from me, because I am a bicycle monger to my friends.
It's a rescue.
That one actually came from a guy at Hope College, my buddy Steve Cortate. He hooked me up with that because it was his roommate's, and his roommate was out riding it one day, and the spindle of the bottom bracket, which is that that little axle that holds the crank arms on, it broke. Like it just sheared off, which happens over time sometimes. So it's a $15 fix to replace that. The guy threw the bicycle in the dumpster. And Steve's like, no. And he took it. He goes, I know just the person. He gave it to me. And then that was my first, that bike was the first bike I converted into a fixed gear. And I bought like a conversion kit by 1/8 inch. And, I actually stole the wheel out of your basement the other day. So if you were wondering where that was, it's at my house now.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
So that's the story of how that bike came into our lives. But I like what you've done with it. A self-described mess on wheels.
Yeah, it's a party bike. It's just the name that we came up for it was the Starship Gambler, which is
that sounds like like an REO Speedwagon song.
Well, it's actually a mishmash of lyrics from Highwaymen songs. The whole thing of that thing comes from.
I was a highwayman.
Well, yeah, well, it's because like me and Dustin and John, we're always singing the lyrics to American Remains, but we kind of mishmash them up. So like one of them's like, I am a shotgun rider. Then the next line is, or the next verse, which I can't remember if it's Waylon Jennings or Chris Christopherson, but one of them sings, I am a river gambler.
That sounds like a Jennings line.
So the gambler comes from that, but then eventually we bastardized it, and there's in the song The Highwaymen, Johnny Cash has that line about like, I fly a starship. So then we just started mishmashing it, and one day we're drunk and we're just singing and we're going, I am a starship gambler. And I was like, boom, name, just because I like the idea for the name of Gambler for that, because one, it's got gold wheels, two, there's cards in the spokes, and also every time you ride it is a complete gamble of if it's gonna hold together. Like I was riding down the street one day going to Martha's to pick up some beer, and the pedals were wobbly, and I was like, what's this all about? So I got off it, and like the bolt that holds, like, not the pedal with the gear on it, but the other side, that was like wobbling, like it was, because it's fixed gear, so I've been using my feet to slow down. I think it was loosening because of that.
I guess you should be kind of careful with those older ones, because the act of like skidding and locking
I've learned that
it has potential to yank the axle out of the dropout, and you could do some damage, and it'll be harder to get that in over time. And that's why we had to retire dog balls.
What the hell was dog balls?
Dog balls was that ugly carrot-colored bicycle I had for the longest time.
Oh yeah, I remember that with the green handlebar tape and whatnot.
Yeah, that was my first foray into green bicycles.
Gotcha. That thing it needs to be single speed. It's more fun when it's single speed.
Yeah.
Riding long distance on fixed gear is the worst thing in the world.
It's a little more problematic for your knees.
Yeah, well, just your legs in general. Like going 80 miles like that just is so tiring.
You could, okay, so the gear ratio I have on the Fairdale Parser is 42 in the front, 18 in the rear. It's pretty comfy. Yours is probably a 46 tooth chainring in the front. So if you pop that wheel off, take it down to Freewheeler and ask for like an 18 tooth freewheel for the back, they'll pop it on for you. And it'd be a little more comfortable for cruising. So those two extra teeth will make hills just an eensy bit easier.
Yeah, that would be better. Because I want it to be single. Well, realistically, one day I want that bike to have gears and actually be a touring bike.
Yeah.
Right now it was just my project. I was like, all right, I've got a month to build a bike. Well, okay, no, the whole thing that started it was when I popped my tire on my fixie on Mavis. When I was like going down Wealthy and acting like a dickhead because Barrett and everybody were in a car behind me, and I hit a pothole and like snake bited my tube. Ooh. And I bent the rim a little bit, and so I was afraid to put a new tire on that because I don't know if it's gonna be like viable or anything. So I was like, I'll just build another bike. I'll just drop like a shit ton of money on a new bike.
Yeah, buy the ticket, take the ride.
Yeah,
Hunter S.
exactly.
Thompson.
Exactly.
I think I've said that every time I've purchased anything for a bicycle, because I know I'm going to be spending a lot of money, but it's going to be worth it in the end.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that bike is jank, but it's kind of the love of my life right now.
Yeah.
Like, it's a labor of love, and like I said, the whole thing is a gamble. It's just ratty. It's haphazardly put together by me when I'm after work, when I get drunk. I just crush beers and like work on it and stuff. And then every morning I'm like, I'm never going to work on my bike drunk again. Next night I'm working on it, trying to fit things together.
How was your trip?
It was good. So pretty much what I did was that Saturday morning I left and headed through, strapped everything on my bike. I don't know how much weight I was carrying. I feel like I want to know that next time just to know it.
It's good for bragging rights.
Yeah, that's true. I strapped everything on and then rode through downtown Grand Rapids toward the Muscatawa Trail, which the trailhead starts in Marne, which is, I don't really know how long it took me to get there, maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes or something, when I was leaving from the southeast side of Grand Rapids, which I forgot that was the start of Art Prize. And so I'm like riding through, I was like, man, there's a lot of people around. And I went to go, like, when you go down Lion and then that walking bridge, totally forgot that there's going to be a bunch of art exhibits and people everywhere. So I'm all camped out. I've got like a hammock on the front, my sleeping bag, all my shit on the back. And just like kind of at one point I had to stop and like walk my bike through all this stuff. So I'm like, oh cool, art prize, like whatever. And the worst part of the whole trip was just getting out of Grand Rapids, because then you got to go up Walker Avenue or whatever, and it's busy and there's not a very good bike lane, and it's all uphill that whole way.
It's brutal.
So by the time I got to Marne, I was like already exhausted, double thinking all the choices I've made up to this point. And then I look at my beautiful mess of a bike and I'm just like, all right, we got to do it. I put too much money. I can't go back now.
Yeah.
And so, once I got on the trail, it's fantastic. Like all the way to Muskegon, that trail leads. So
Every time I've taken that trail, it's just been nothing but wind in my face.
see, I didn't have that at all. It was great. There's little gazebos along the way, so you can take like every 20 miles. I'd like get off, like take a shot of whiskey, drink a bunch of water, eat a Cliff Bar, like just sit for a minute and rest my legs, and then keep trucking along. I met a few people along the way.
There's that house that there's this family that are very, very clever. So they set up a porta potty and then like a vending machine.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
That's legit.
Yeah, where is that? That's right after. It's right after Muskegon. It's right after Muskegon, because I remember that. Yeah, I thought about that because they had another vending machine like over in their thing, which I was gonna buy a Gatorade, but I didn't have any singles on me. I only had a $20 bill. But yeah, so there's like a bunch of cool people. Once I got to Muskegon, I stopped off at, I'll do a little plug for Unruly Brewery. They were pretty cool. Like they had some good beer, and like all the employees were really like friendly.
That place is like adult Chuck E. Cheese's.
Kind of, yeah. There's like a pizza place and like a coffee shop all inside of it. It's really cool. And I went to 18th Amendment and got food there. I got a sandwich and a Moscow Mule. It was delicious. That was the first time I'd really stopped, and I was feeling really winded. Actually, when I got into Muskegon, I was starving. Like I just had Cliff Bars and whiskey to eat and beef jerky. And so,
like a prospector, but with Cliff Bars.
Pretty much. Well, I had figured that I built the bike drunk. I should probably make the trip buzzed at least. So I roll in, and there's like a Checkers is the first restaurant that I find. And I was like, oh man, I'm gonna get some Checkers. I waited in line for like 10 minutes, and nobody took my order. There's like a couple in front of me waiting to get their order taken. And then I see this guy just checking out my bike. And so I got out of line, and because all my gear was on, I didn't chain it up to anything because it was like 10 feet away. But I just went over and I was like, hey man, what's up? Like started talking to him and stuff. He's like, oh man, it's a sweet rig you got. And he's got like a BMX bike. And I was like, yeah, I'm riding up from Pentwater. Like this is my like big stop. And then I'm riding up from Grand Rapids. I'm heading to Pentwater. He's like, oh, cool. Yeah, the man took my license away, but silver lining, I love to ride. And then he proceeded to put his bike into a cab and then drive away. To which I'm like, okay, cool. Like, you really love to ride, don't you? Not to shame anybody. I'm not trying to bike shame anybody. Like, the dude's
That's
not the
situation. It's the lack of license is the problem.
Yeah. It's the fact that, like, cool, dude, you just admitted, like, something that happened to you. The man took your license away for whatever reason. So that was, like, Muskegon. So then after that, I was like, I want to eat this Checkers. I'm going to go get some real food, and, like, looked up the brewery. Like, that's what I wanted to do, was actually stop at some legit places. So yeah, it was cool. Like, coffee shop girl bummed me a cigarette, and I talked to some of the people for a while, and people were asking me like about the trip. Everybody seemed to think I was crazy for like riding that far.
Yeah, it's weird. Like to people in the bike world, it's like, oh yeah, cool. Like
yeah, like 80 miles really isn't that big a deal to like I'm a very amateur cyclist, so I'm not gonna say anything too much about it.
I would say bicyclist.
Bicyclist.
I think it's dichotomized differently.
Like when cyclist say, with a kit and all that stuff. Yeah, I was gonna say I'm not really.
Every cyclist is a bicycle rider, but not every bicycle rider is a cyclist.
I could agree with that. I'm more of a bike hooligan. Yeah, I would say.
Yeah.
I don't own a kit. I ride in jean shorts every time, or my scrubs to work, which have a prominent crotch hole now from riding to work every day. I don't ride long enough distance where I need like a padded kit or something like that. I should invest in one if I'm going to do more long distance riding, because I'd like to get into that more.
Even if I buy like the padded underwear that just goes underneath like a regular pair of jeans or whatever, like my ass is on fire for like hours afterward. Like the saddle sores feel way better in comparison. Like
just having a sore butt.
Just a little sore, whatever.
Yeah, well, that was my thing. Like on the ride back, it wasn't that bad. Like your butt gets used to it, and that saddle's not broken in at all. So once it does, it'll be perfect, and I won't have to worry about it.
Brooks leather. I never got a Brooks leather saddle. The Cambium is what I have, and it's
I shop for Cambiums, but I was trying to get the nicest thing for the cheapest price.
Yeah.
So I got the most basic Brooks leather
the
that
most
you can
basic.
get.
What'd you pay? Like $120?
No, dude, like Amazon.
My local bike shop.
$89 for that thing. My tragic story that I love to retell over and over again is that my brother got me a really nice Brooks.
I want to say it's B17.
It was a Swift.
Swift?
That's a B17. What I have on there now. Before he got me a Swift saddle, it was super nice. It had like the kind of rose copper, like hand pounded, like hand rivets and stuff. Like
so beautiful.
Beautiful. And I put it on a shitty. At that point, the saddle
That
on the
was
bike
a-
was more. It was worth more than the bike that it was on, basically.
Yeah. It was a pretty bike. It was like beige. Like it looked good with the saddle on it.
Yeah. No, it worked good. I had that like beige cork on the handlebars and stuff. Like it was a fun bike. I liked it a lot. That was my first fixed, or not my first fixed gear, but my favorite one. And then that got jacked promptly.
Rip in peace.
So yeah, then I felt bad because that was like a birthday present that my brother spent like a bunch of money on. He worked at a bike shop at the time. So yeah, I've wanted one ever since, and I've never been able to pull the trigger on it. And finally, when this comes along, I was like, I'm gonna get a damn good bike seat, like because I can always put it on other bikes that I ride and stuff like that. And
So where'd you end up camping? Just
the first night I spent at my parents' house. I rolled in after dark. Riding in the middle of the woods in the dark is one of the more terrifying experiences I've ever had because I could hear like deer and animals like crashing through the forest. I didn't like that.
that does sound unpleasant to say the least.
I just had a very like vivid image of me getting tackled by a deer.
I knew a guy who got hit by a deer.
On a bike?
No, he was like in the woods.
Tackled by a deer.
And just a deer ran through the woods, and like I was at a coffee shop in Ludington. I hadn't seen this guy in years. He comes up to me and he goes, "Oh my, you got to see this!" Drags me in the bathroom, drops his pants, and shows me this deer antler wound on his leg. Like it looked like a paintball welt, but it just a little bit sharper,
Yeah.
And it was wild. Like,
Oh man.
yeah. Rest in peace, Cody.
And then the next day I had to help my dad take.
What did Denny say?
My parents, they were just surprised. I don't think anybody thought I'd follow through with it, honestly, when I told them I was doing this. Even my brother was like, when he found out, he just was like, whoa, I'm impressed. I mean, I've never done anything close to that distance before, let alone going back. My dad the whole time was like, I can drive you back to Grand Rapids.
I got here.
Like, not much worse. My legs are still tired, but whatever. Yeah, so the chief was impressed. But then the next day I had to help them take the dock out of the water, which is an upper body workout, basically. Yeah. So on my ride back, just fast forward, on my ride back, I was sore all over. I'll just say that right now. Legs hurt, upper body hurt. But so yeah, Sunday, helped my parents with that stuff, kind of hung out around the house, and then after we all had dinner and whatnot, I went out to the Outlet Beach to camp.
Oh, nice.
Which is not far from where I grew up. So I was like, that's the other thing, is it's not like I went somewhere I didn't know anything about. I didn't camp out anywhere that was like unfamiliar to me. It's actually like one of my favorite places on the planet. And
did you feel more like bonded to it afterwards?
Yeah, exactly. It was kind of a something I needed, I guess. It was just good to kind of be alone with your thoughts and stuff, just disconnected.
Yeah.
Not if anything bad had happened, like I cut my hand or burned myself or something, like I could get home easily. Like it's only a few miles away, but it's a very touristy area that nobody's at because it was October, so there wasn't like a soul around. So it did feel like I was very away from everything else. So I found a sweet spot because the Outlet Beach is Bass Lake has like a little river that outlets into Lake Michigan, and at that spot there's maybe like 100 yards of beach. It's really small, and there's like dunes and stuff and trees at the top of the dunes. So I went up to the top of a dune and hung my hammock, put my rain fly over it, then built like a little fire, which you're not supposed to camp there, first of all, and you're definitely not supposed to like have a fire there, but I did to entertain myself.
That's that bandito shit.
Exactly. It was like immediately because the sun was going down while I was setting up camp, so all the Bear Grylls I've watched in my lifetime kicked in, and I was like, okay, I gotta drink my own piss, and I have to build a fire.
Adapt, improvise, overcome.
But no, it was easy. Like, just built a fire, got my bike underneath my rain fly and whatnot, and set up a little tent and stuff, and just hung out all night. Pretty good. Just drinking beer and whiskey.
How are the stars up there?
It was actually kind of overcast.
Damn it.
I know, right? There was a period where the stars were pretty good, but
this is the thing I love doing whenever I go back home is checking out the stars up
just
there.
Just because you can't see them here. Yeah.
Miss it.
Yeah, it was a good time just hanging out. It was cool just having it all to myself, basically, like all that particular area. Also, I was surprised because it probably didn't drop below 40 degrees that night. It was a pretty warm weekend. It was perfect weather actually for the whole trip because it didn't get hotter than like 75 degrees. And like the weekend before when it was reaching like the 90s, that would have been miserable doing that whole thing. Yeah, it was actually pretty toasty in my hammock because I was like in a sleeping bag in the hammock, and would have been worse. Or it would have been fine, except it got really windy, like around like 4 or 5 a.m. So then my rain fly was like flapping at one point, and that kept me up. Only thing I regret because I didn't want to get out of bed and like fix it. So I was, but yeah, I kind of like lounged around that spot until like 11 in the morning, just because it was so nice out. It's like wake up, and you've got Lake Michigan right there, and
That sounds dope.
yeah.
Why are we doing that this weekend?
I know, right? We could do that. It's a pretty long trip, though. I don't think Dustin wants to go that far because we'd have to leave really early in the morning. So what I brought with me was I brought my hammock and a rain fly for my hammock. I brought a sleeping bag, and I brought a small bag of a change of clothes, essentially. And then also in that bag, and I've got like a frame bag in various places. I had like snacks, obviously, some Cliff Bars, some beef jerky, just little things to keep you going. Water. I brought tools, just because, like I said, my bike is a gamble, and I didn't know if it was going to fall apart or anything like that. I brought a wrench, and I don't have a good selection of like actual bike lightweight tools. I don't know, like I don't have like a bike multi-tool or anything like that. So I brought like a socket wrench with the socket that I need to tighten up my crank set if I need to, and then pretty much a wrench for like a crescent wrench, and then a couple other like an Allen wrench and a few wrenches. So that was probably the heaviest stuff that I had to bring.
Yeah.
Was just like tools, just because I didn't trust that my shit would hold together, and I want to be able to fix it. And I brought a spare bike tube and tire levers, and I was like, yeah, I've got everything I need in case I get a flat. I can fix it. I didn't bring a pump. I've got a pump, and it was in my car, and I didn't realize that until I got to Dustin's house. I just went there and said like hey to everybody, had a beer with them in the morning before I left. Yeah, well, I went to Dustin's house, and just on my way out of town in the morning, and Dustin was like, oh, I was like, I got everything I need, and he's like, oh, you got a pump? And I was like, I've gone too far. I can't go 2 miles back to my house.
Turning back just feels so wrong.
It does feel wrong. I don't want to do it. Yeah, I brought like a camping stool or a camping stove. I brought cooking utensils just in case. I don't know. I was camping. I felt like I should bring it. So like one of those little like compact things that you can cook on, like a little pot and a pan. But then the stove that I got is actually like 5 pieces of metal that like you fit together.
One of those folding ones?
Yeah, you fit together and then you build a little fire inside and then cook on that. So I never actually used it, but it was like a drunk online purchase, basically, where I was like, that looks cool.
I'm noticing a trend.
One thing that I did bring, or that I found was very helpful, was just a portable charger, just to keep. I seriously got it tucked into my cup holder, and then had just wires running out it, so my shit was charging while I was going, like when it got low.
In my kit, I have a solar charger that I got off Amazon for like $20, I think. And those are kind of nice. You have to pre-charge them first, which I don't think makes sense because it's weird.
Yeah.
But and then like just a backup battery that has like 9 hours of juice in it. So at the very least, I have one that I can recharge in the morning and then let solar charge all day, and then I have another battery I can use at night.
Yeah.
So.
My thing is, like, when I go on these little trips, I needed something for like power, just because I like to listen to music or podcasts or whatever.
I'm a little bit of a Strava nerd, but so
See,
yeah, I
never use it. I should use it more.
I like to log my miles. I did read a story today about this Australian Strava segment that became highly contentious. So, I mean, this guy had apparently 40 some odd KOMs for like being the fastest for each of these segments. And this other guy who happened to live in the same neighborhood and also happened to be an avid cyclist was slowly, just through the act of riding around, removing this other gentleman's KOMs, and it got to the point where he had lost about 40 to this dude who was just minding his own business.
Yeah, he's just doing his thing.
And this guy started hey, this is psychotic. What are you doing? Why are you stalking me like this all publicly on Strava? And
really, this other guy was just logging
He's
his normal rides on Strava, not trying to
hey
do
man,
anything.
I'm just out here doing me. It wasn't actually up until this moment. I thought, what if he actually is doing
This dude cut him off at like the line for coffee at one point in time, and he's
Yeah.
just been getting back at him ever since.
He was at Starbucks, and this cyclist came in full kit, and he took too long to order, and he goes, I'm going to be a cyclist, and I'm going to fucking wreck your shit.
I'm gonna ruin your life. He had never ridden a bike before that point, actually,
Yeah. He lost 50 pounds.
just to get back at somebody.
The moral of that story is don't take Strava too seriously, and like the law of large numbers, coincidences happen. Like,
Yeah.
you know, if you were able to get like 150 KOMs or whatever
Why is
the
it
guy
so weird
had,
that
like,
somebody else could?
yeah, like you did it. Okay, so you and I plan on going camping this weekend
Yes.
with
Dustin,
Dustin and Ari.
possibly Ari.
Possibly Ari. All right,
Appreciate
so here's the list I had from before, and I think it mentions a lot of the things that we talked about earlier. Hammock, straps, sleeping bag.
Yeah.
Because god damn it does get cold underneath those things.
It does, but you can get quite cozy.
Your back exposed to just like open
Nothing,
air,
yeah.
nothing, like, oh, it gets so chilly. You definitely need a
Which
sleeping
one
bag.
thing that I've heard is that you can heat warm rocks. You can like heat rocks next to a fire.
Oh, yeah.
And then lay them underneath your hammock when you go to sleep, so you're at least warm.
I've never
for, like,
done
a
that
little
under the
while.
hammock. That makes a lot more sense. Because I used to do that in the Boy Scouts. You would heat up a rock and then wrap it in newspaper and just put it at the foot of the sleeping bag. It was dope.
Yeah, exactly. It keeps you warm. But I'm like, if you could find, this is assuming you could find rocks that were flat enough
Yeah.
or big enough. But if you like heated all the rocks, and they could somehow move them underneath the hammock.
That
like,
sounds
it
like
would,
such a spa treatment,
it would
too.
keep, yeah, it would keep you nice and warm.
It sounds kind of nice.
It'd be like nice warmth and stuff, at least for like the first couple hours where you try and fall asleep.
If I had a week in the woods, I think I would make a nice like forest sauna
Like
using
an
hot
actual-
rocks.
Base camp.
Yeah.
Like if you made a teepee and then just put hot rocks in the middle of it and then just poured water, dude, it'd be great.
That'd be so sweet. Okay, so after sleeping bag, I had Cliff Bars, solar charger, backup battery, water bottles, shorts, sunscreen. Probably not. This was a summer mix, so I needed
Yeah, sunscreen, like
sunscreen. Probably not.
maybe bug spray.
It is going to rain, so I probably wear wool sweater. One pair of underpants will do you. Sorry. It's 24 hours. You just need the one. Unless it gets wet, like terribly wet. Okay, have one pair.
I bring
one backup
so
pair.
it is going to rain.
Yeah. I think we have an 80% chance of rain this weekend. So
Gotcha.
we are going to be wet.
That could change.
It could change. There's 20% and it's still like 3+ days away.
Exactly.
I've never ridden in a poncho before. I hear it's okay.
Got my windbreaker,
Oh,
but
definitely got windbreakers on.
oh yeah.
Fuck yeah. Socks, bags.
So what kind of like rain gear should we bring if it's gonna be raining? Like poncho? Like is poncho okay? Because I've been itching to buy something waterproof, but I don't want to spend any more money.
So I think a normal poncho would probably be okay, but I bet we'll get ponchos and scissors, and then we'll
just cut it down the
yeah,
side.
we'll customize it because you know how I feel about expensive cycling clothing.
It's stupid.
It's stupid. Just make it yourself. Everything I've ever bought from like Target that says waterproof, it definitely is not. It is like waterproof
Water
to a
resistant.
certain degree. It's like, are you going to be near a sprinkler? Because it's waterproof. If you're going to be hunting whales, definitely not.
Hunting whales.
Well, I couldn't. That's the first wet activity I
We
could think
here
of.
at Real Friends do not condone the hunting of whales. Just
God,
gonna put
no.
that out there.
Well, I'm a pescatarian, but so I think we have a pretty solid grasp on what we need.
Yeah, I'm pretty much gonna bring all the stuff that I brought on my last trip.
So as long as we're all cool with rain,
I'm cool with rain.
now we're gonna have to do about 9 miles of gravel each day.
See, that's the one thing I was wondering is like how bad, like looking at what I'm riding, how do you think that would fare on gravel? Also, do you have a patch kit?
You know, we could just stick to the road to a certain point.
We could do that.
It's a little more dangerous, and I think we'll be leaving early enough on a Saturday, right?
Yeah, we should be.
I can look for a road route to get us around that gravel because I love gravel and it's gonna be a shame to let this go. But I know only Ari and I would have fun on that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, yeah, with your current bikes, because what are you?
But
Which
'cause
one?
if-
What are
if
you
we-
taking?
if-
Are you taking your
I'm gonna take the Fairdale. It's got
the thick tires on it?
35 millimeter tires.
Yeah, exactly. You can handle the gravel, which like my tires have some traction on them, but I'm just afraid of blowing one out, and I'm afraid of Dustin blowing one out.
Nice. I'll take a rain fly, or we can both do rain flies and just make a little village.
We can't make a little village.
Little hot rock village. Ooh, that's a good name.
Oh, dude, Hot Rock Village. That's what we need to name our
yeah.
camp. Hot Rock Village to me is just like a little community where every house is a sauna. And everybody's just wearing like robes and towels and stuff.
It's Finland.
Yeah. There's just it's a spa. It's like a spa village, basically.
We have some aspirations for our campsite.
We do. We're not going to meet any of them.
Here's what I was sort of thinking. Somebody brings a portable DVD player and a copy of Marley and Me.
And we all have ourselves a good cry.
Yeah. Because like if we get there early enough in the day, like that's gonna be cool. But it is gonna be a rainy day in the fall, so we're gonna have we're gonna set up camp in the rain most likely. We're gonna have to look for firewood in the rain, and then we're gonna have some downtime before sun sets, and we need to continuously feed our fire for warmth. So I think we fill that time crying our eyes out to Owen Wilson
Jennifer Aniston.
and Jennifer Aniston and this beautiful Labrador named Marley.
Sounds great. Oh, also
Definitely gonna bring some Nag Champa to get the cool vibes.
Yeah, and Men in Black 2.
I was thinking, oh no, do not talk about bike movies right now. Back.
What we should bring with us is like one of those like fire starter things, like that you like put in like your fireplace. Like it's like a little condensed little brick of shit. And you light it on fire. And
just
stuff.
just
to get the because
kindling
is gonna be hard.
We are
to
going
find.
in the rain, so we should have a. That's a good call.
Yeah, like it like either that or some Vaseline, just because like Vaseline burns at a really low temperature even when it's wet.
So I think we're gonna have to do like the route I've planning. We camped this before and it was great. I went with Sean and Pat from Freewheeler Bike Shop and our boy Eli. It was great because Eli had never done this before, so he had like this big, huge backpacking bag.
That's what Dustin had planned on doing, and I warned him not to.
Yes, because like when you told me you were thinking of doing that, I told you no, and you're like, I think it'll be fine. I'm like, you've told him no once,
and I didn't do it. I figured it would be a bad idea.
It's in his hands now.
It would have been a bad idea.
We did not even get a chance to give this message to Eli, so he's got this giant like fucking like paratrooper backpack. Oh man, he was a sweaty boy. So this is a little bit glampy because there are a lot of stops on this route, and just before where we go to the woods, there is a grocery store on the way. So if we get there early enough, we can set up camp and then send somebody out on a grocery run, or what have you. I think it's fun to bring like shit that should not be hauled.
Oh no!
Like a BB gun's cool for this stuff.
I have when I went last time, I have a hatchet that I strapped to the side of my bike.
Yeah, I usually put a big knife on the back of my
exactly.
bag. An easy access knife that you can get from your handlebars should you need to leap off your bicycle into a bear.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or into a group of raiders. Or something. You don't know. I got this like saddle side hatchet.
Stuff to make the fire look cool. No, like that stuff that you toss in, it'll turn the fire green for like 3 minutes.
It's like copper oxide or something like that. I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah, some copper oxide.
I don't think that's what it is. It's copper something. I know copper burns green. The oxide, I'm not a chemist. I do not know.
All right, so if we pass a construction site on the way, just
grab some copper
some copper pipe and toss it in the fire.
Yeah, exactly. Don't breathe it in.
Oh, actually, that is something to be aware of. Where we are camping, it is the start of the Manistee Huron National Forest, and as such, there are some sections of land that are owned by people and some that are not. And the parts that are not, it is my understanding, are fair game to citizens of these United States. So that's where we're going to be. So the thing about it is, last year when we went, we're biking down this road, and we are going to have to hit a dirt road on the way out there. That's just the way it is. And then there's kind of a trail, so that'll be a trek. There's like gunshots or like bullet holes in the street signs up there. Like this is real America, as they might say. And so we're biking by, and these people are just out on their porch, and Eli waves at them.
Hi guys,
because Eli is the most talkative social person, so he just waves at these people, and it's like sort of like getting late. It's like 8 p.m. And we're going off in the woods, and we're on bicycles, and like the look they gave was not a welcoming one. And It definitely had a very Deliverance vibe to it. So,
Ding, ding, ding,
so
ding,
there
ding,
is
ding.
just like a wee bit of stress that's ever present in the air the whole time, which is good because it is like this next weekend might turn into our Halloween episode.
Cabin in the woods shit. Damn it.
So yeah, that's something to be aware of.
And that's going to do it for us this week on the Wheel Friends podcast. I want to thank Steve Spear for being on the show again. Thank you guys for listening. Be sure you tune in next week. Find out if Steve and Dustin and Ari and I went camping. And if not, I'm sure there'll be something just as good on here next week. If you want to get some spoilers for yourself and find out if we went on this camping trip or not, be sure to follow us on social networks because there's a good chance some pics will end up on Instagram or even Twitter or even the Facebook page. Who knows? Who knows if they'll even have cell phone reception? But just in case, you should probably follow us on all of those. Also, if you want to be super helpful, you can share the show with a friend or rate and review it on iTunes. For any other inquiries, you can shoot an email to wheelfriendspodcast@gmail.com. I'm Craig Richards. Go ride your bike!